Janay, welcome to Dublin.
Thank you.
How are you feeling fight week?
Yes, fantastic.
You've obviously fought Sinead before. I've seen an interview you did a while back saying you've both grown as fighters since then. What do you expect on Saturday night?
Yes, exactly that. An evolved version of the first time that we met in the cage. Obviously, in Connecticut 4.5 years ago, a long time has passed. We've fought a few different people since then. And you definitely can tell both of us and our growth has adapted since then. So I'm excited for finally getting a round two. I know that we both wanted a round two after that first one, so we finally get to have it Saturday night in Dublin.
Saturday night will be 1 year since Sinead's win over Leah. She's been out injured since. I'm sure that's a fight you've watched. What were your thoughts on that? It was a big deal over here. It's 2 Irish fighters. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, definitely tuned in live for that one. I wasn't going to miss it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a fantastic fight. Sinead had a great performance against, obviously, someone that was seen as a grappler and a judoka. So to know that Sinead has definitely worked on those areas and made herself a little bit more of a well-rounded fighter, it was just great to see. And going into this, it makes it more of an MMA match. I think I said previously that our original fight was more of a striker versus striker. This one's definitely MMA fighter versus MMA fighter.
Sinead was promised a title shot after that win. Obviously, she got injured, so it didn't happen. What are you looking for if you get the win on Saturday night? Would you think that you'd move up to that position?
I would definitely say it would be close. I wouldn't expect an immediate title fight for sure, but I would definitely expect maybe another fight that makes me closer to a title shot. So I'd say maybe one more after, and it definitely moves me up into the division and back where I should be. Thank you.
How do you reflect on that first fight? First of all, the cut. You know, I think a lot of people, and we're maybe a little bit biased here being Irish, but thought the fight could have gone on. From your side of it, when you looked at that cut, do you think it should have gone on as well?
I mean, I'm no cut man. And looking back on it, something that I always sort of say is that one of the negatives that happened with the cut is that she did keep touching it. And I know that obviously touching it opens it up, it causes the blood to come out more, and it makes it harder for the cut man to work on it. I would have obviously definitely, I was excited for round two. It wasn't like I was standing there expecting them to stop the fight as well. So I definitely wanted a second round. But I'm like I said, I'm no cut man. I don't know how much you can or cannot work on it. And it wasn't just one cut, it was two as well. So I'm assuming that played a factor. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. I've been cutting fights, and I know obviously I just haven't touched them. I've hoped for the best to make sure that the ref doesn't or the doctor doesn't stop it off. So it's sort of, I guess, like a combination of a few factors. But this time, at least we get to finally have a round two.
And then on the round of fighting itself, maybe it's kind of forgotten a little bit. It was actually a very good round of fighting, and both of you landed a good few licks in there, I suppose. How do you reflect on that in terms of who was winning the round, who was winning the fight? And was there anything, I suppose, that you got from Sinead you weren't expecting?
No, to be honest. I mean, usually that is the case. Usually you see something that you don't expect. I think it was the other way around. I think they got a lot more than they expected. I don't think they overlooked. I would never, especially that team, SPG, I've got a lot of respect for them, and I wouldn't say they are the kind of people that overlook me, but I think because at the time I was a nobody, in a sense. I had only really fought in Hong Kong just before it, on the local scene in Australia. There was one fight in Bellator to watch a tape on, and it wasn't my best performance. So I can assume they didn't really expect a performance like that from me. I personally think I won that first round. I felt the momentum, internally. You always can kind of have that feeling going into the second round. I was ready, I was excited, and I was ready to let go of more things. I was sort of feeling her out for that first round, but I still feel like the elbows were putting me ahead on the scorecards, and defending the takedown and that kind of thing played in my factor. So I feel like obviously I'm biased because I want to win, but yeah, it's exciting to see that we can then finally expand on what happened in that first one.
You spoke about Sinead's team there. What about your team? It's a great time for your team, obviously with lots of big fights. How great is it to be part of all of that and being around all those great fighters in the gym with you?
Yes, obviously it's fantastic. Best decision I've ever made. It's one of those things that I've been trying to do for a very long time. COVID, personal reasons, all sorts of things caused me to not be able to make it down there, and now I've finally made the move, fully committed to it, and it's almost fully committed to me in a sense, and just being surrounded by the guys all the time, being so accepted by everyone, having a little bit of foundation, obviously meeting them at different parts of the world when we've kind of crossed paths definitely helps, but I'm just exactly where I need to be. I'm in the best place I've ever been, I'm the happiest I've ever been, and that makes for the best fighter I can ever be, so it's exciting.
Last one for me, how did you score the Volkanovski fight? I'm
not I'm biased, of course. I'm not disagreeing with the decision at the end of the day. And I mean, I'm taking that from Eugene ultimately as well. So I'm not disagreeing with the decision, but I still think Volk is number one pound for pound king, 100%. Thank you.
You spoke about the psychological damage of having a detached retina injury that you have. Obviously going in with Sinead, you're both high-level boxers. Is there any temptation on your part to turn this into a grappling match or to evolve your style, or can you think about things like that going into a fight?
I feel like maybe when on my last fight, that was factoring into my mind for sure, especially because I knew I had to get another surgery straight after that last fight. This is a different time. I'm well used to what limitations it has caused me, I guess, and the adjustments I've made now having this new vision that affects me for sure. It doesn't, and for that reason I've worked really hard on the gym to make sure it's not something that hinders me in any way or changes my mindset or approach to fighting. I'm not going to become a grappler. I'm not going to change my stance to southpaw or something like that just because of this injury. If I'm going to keep fighting, I'm going to do it exactly the way that I've always have, and I'm going to continue on in my style and expressing myself the way I want to, which is always generally striking.
I was listening to a podcast with you a couple of years ago, and it was Cyborg was actually still in the UFC at the time. You said your dream would be to fight her. You're now, a fight or two away from doing that. Is that still the dream? And do you ever stop to reflect? I've come this far, and I'm so close now.
Absolutely. I feel like this week, especially, there's been like a lot of speak of just like growth and appreciation of what comes with growth. And I appreciate myself to be able to look back on those goals, like you're saying, and know that I'm at a place that a past self probably didn't expect or would be proud of, definitely. And always we speak about legacy, and legacy is something that has been a big thing for me in the future to always complete, and fighting Cyborg would be top tier on that list, fighting the pound for pound female and the GOAT, I would say, for women's MMA. That's ultimately, I'll be the person to beat her, and I'm excited for that fight to finally come to fruition.
You went back to boxing again there as well recently. Is that somewhere you would see your future now, or is that something you'd be interested in going back in, or are you primarily focused now on MMA?
100% focused on MMA now. I think my last boxing fight was maybe like 2-3 years ago, and that was the last one. I decided at that time that was the last one. Trying to bounce between the two doesn't benefit either, almost. You're trying to sort of like, you don't do either well, in a sense, because you're dipping in and out. And for that reason, I love boxing. I enjoyed it. I love the scene, but it's not for me. Like maybe post MMA career, but for now, it's 100% MMA, 100% looking at that featherweight title. Thank you.
Janay, you're obviously fighting an Irish woman this weekend. You've already fought Leah McCourt. That was a fight that you were having a lot of success in up until the up kick, and then Leah obviously got the submission. Is that a fight that you'd like to run back? And if so, would you like to do it in Ireland or maybe back in New Zealand?
I think I'm done with Ireland. I love it. It's so great, but it's a long way away, definitely. So I love the experience. I love living this lifestyle where I get flown to the other side of the world, but nobody in this whole promotion comes further than I do for any of the fights. So for that reason, I would definitely love to have it back at home. 100% would love to run it back. Obviously, immediately after I left the cage, that's what I wanted. And it's a win that I know that I can obviously attain, and I am the better fighter, and therefore I would love to do it, especially in Australia or New Zealand. Would be amazing.
You spoke about getting flown over. Sorry, I'm behind the
You're right.
How's the acclimatisation going to Dublin?
Yeah, not too bad. A lot of people don't remember, but I used to live in Edinburgh, so I'm somewhat familiar with this side of the world, the climate, the landscape and that kind of thing. I did make sure I got here a little bit early. I know it was pretty much just me and a few other guys on the card that were here a little bit earlier, so I've been here since Saturday. I did the adjusted things. This is my 8th fight with these guys. I know what to do. I literally vacuum pack my own pillow, I bring the lavender oil, I got the noise cancelling headphones, I make sure I sleep on this timeline. I got the whole jet lag thing pretty down packed, which is lucky for me, and it just comes from the experience, but for that reason I've acclimatised well, and it's obviously the opposite season as well, but I love hoodie season, I love beanie season, so say less.
T-shirt season.
Is it? Shorts, you say? No, surely.
Does the jet lag make the cut any worse?
I know for some people it does, definitely. For that reason, you have to adjust. You have to you have to prepare for that, like the water retention, all that sort of stuff. I retained water on the way over. and I just move it out the next day doing certain adjustments and techniques that I know work for me. And I guess that has come from experience. I think like that's something that I sort of say back when I fought Leah. She wasn't used to doing the flying and stuff, and I can imagine that would have been a bit of a shock. I'm glad that from the get-go, I've always been traveling. I haven't fought back in my home country or like Australia or New Zealand since like 2016. So it's not like I don't know what it's like to fly and travel and cut at the same time. I just know what to do now.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.